What up, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Rob Hunter TV. Today, I wanted to start off the show just a little bit different. I wanted to start with the story. I know last night we had the NBA draft, and we had well, that's basically what we had. We had the NBA draft, and it's really like I said, it's like the dog days of summer right now. We've got not much going on. We do have the WNBA, which, like I said before, I'm actually really interested in. But today, I really only have one kind of and a half topic, so I don't know how long this stream will be. But we are going to we're gonna push through it. So today I just wanted to start with the story and then get into the topic of the NBA draft and what it actually means right now. I know that doesn't mean as much as it used to, at least from a notoriety standpoint. So we are going to get into that a little bit later. But first, the story. So let me tell you about two companies that launched around the same time. They actually launched within 4 months. I'm sorry, 7 months of one another. So one launched in late 2003, and the other one launched in 2004. One of them had immediate success. They ended up. I mean, they were the culture. It was a digital platform, and one of. I mean, they just jumped out. I mean, everybody was on this platform. Some of you may remember it. Some of you may not. Um, but they had all the celebrities. I mean, they had all the music people. I mean, if you weren't on this platform, then you were basically not in the know. You were not in the know. You were not a part of the culture. And the culture just meaning the digital age. It wasn't a black thing. It wasn't a white thing. It was a everybody thing. And both companies were successful, by the way. So I don't want to. This is not a story about one of the companies failed or anything like that. But the founders, they were cool. They were young. They were viral before viral. One of them was about one of the founders was less than, I believe, I think 23 years old, if I'm not mistaken. But the traffic was booming, and they had hype, but the hype was actually real. Um, and then shortly thereafter, maybe around 4 or 5 years, they get an offer. Closer to 4 years, they get an offer, and they take it. They take the offer. The offer is a big one. It's a $500 million, $500 million. I mean, you can end the story right there. $500 million, a little bit over $500 million, and they take it. Um, but the problem is the new owners, if you will, the new owners assumed basically all control. They weren't around for the building of the culture, and the user experience got a little bit more clunky. Ads were all over the place. It just wasn't the eclectic culture shifting moment it was, or place it was before corporate took over. And within 6 years, the company was sold again for $35 million, losing roughly 94% of their investment. The other company starts, like I said, small, very similar, um, but they don't have the immediate success that company A had. It was a invite only, very very slow motion, and it was they since they didn't have the immediate success, they had a chance to actually build process and figure out what their culture was. They didn't take ad dollars immediately, and it was just a slower movement. But being that it was a slower movement, again, they had time to develop the recipe. That company today is worth $1.8 trillion, and obviously is still going along strong. Those two companies, MySpace and Facebook. And that brings me to the NBA draft. As I watched last night, I was watching obviously Cooper Flag and the rest of everybody. I didn't really know. I know Ace Bailey because my son played against Ace, and um, my son went to a very notable high school here. Ace Bailey's a Cobb County kid, went to McEachern. Also, Colin Sexton went to McEachern, and Isaac Okoro went to McEachern. So this is a very notable program here in the Metro Atlanta area. And he's going to the Utah Jazz, ironically enough, or serendipitously enough, where Isaiah Collier is playing. Isaiah Collier went to Wheeler High School, Cobb County kid. So they'll have three Cobb County guys there, and Colin Sexton. I think if Colin Sexton is still there, Ace Bailey and Isaiah Collier. So I do know who Ace Bailey, but everybody else, I really didn't know who they were. And so as I was starting to think about, all these guys are one and done. And I think for me, as I started to analyze it, I started to think like, okay, first off, let me just say right out the gate, I'm all for these guys being able to maximize their earning potential. I'm all for that. So, meaning I mean that in every facet. I'm all for them. If they can play coming out of high school, I think they should go. If they can play after 1 year in college, I think they should go. The question is not whether or not I think they should go or could go or should be able to legally go earn. The question is, should you, right? And so as I start to look at, these one and done kids, I start to reflect on when the NBA draft used to mean something. When I used to know player, 1 through 20 or 1 through 15 or whatever it was back when, pick number 7 mattered. Now pick number 7, let me see if I can pull up pick number 7. Pick number 7 in last night's draft was Jeremiah Fears. I don't know who that is. Is that the kid from Alabama? Jeremiah Fears? No, he's from Oklahoma. So case in point. So Dylan Harper, I heard the name. I don't know who he is like that. The third pick was from Baylor, VJ Edgecombe. I don't know how that would sit with you. VJ Edgecombe. And these dudes really may be able to hoop. Trey Johnson was the 6th pick. The 10th pick, Cayman Malik out of Duke. So I mean, maybe you get my point. Some dude named Igor Demon from BYU, the 8th pick. I don't know who these guys are. And so I started thinking to myself, back in the day before Neil, you used to be able to, before Neil, you had to make your money under the table, but Cooper Flagg made $28 million last year. $28 million, like at Duke, he made $28 million. Ace Bailey made 1.6 in Neil money. So for me, I started thinking like, why are these guys leaving after 1 year? And this is just strictly like, okay, this is strictly for me more GOAT talk than anything else, development talk more than anything else. When I start to look at what players are in the GOAT conversation, what players have really made their mark, I start to think about, okay, who's actually in the GOAT discussion, right? Who's in the GOAT discussion? Obviously, it's, Magic and Kareem and Michael Jordan is widely considered the GOAT. LeBron, some consider the GOAT. Larry Bird, Tim Duncan, all of these players who have been the elite of the elite. If you want to, you can throw in a couple other guys if that's tickle your fancy. But you know what guys ain't in that discussion? The one and done guys and the high school guys. Like they're not in that discussion. Outside of LeBron, who's a unicorn, those guys aren't in that discussion. And so my thought process is, why are these guys leaving so soon? Like, I don't understand. You got money, because we're not talking about, we're not talking about guys that are, second round guys, or we're talking about top 10 guys. We're talking about top 12. These are first round guys. These guys are millionaires. And if they come back, they're going to make more money probably, or they could transfer. Nowadays, if you don't like the deal, you can get the hell on. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, if 3 years was good enough for Michael Jordan, right? He was the 3 years at UNC. Then there may be something to staying, right? So if we look at, let's see, if we can pull this graphic up. All right, let's look at this. So we got Michael Jordan. He spent 3 years in college. You're 21 years old when he went to school. I mean, when he went pro. Magic Johnson, 20 years old. Larry Bird was 22 years old. Tim Duncan he went 3 years. And as you can see, there's so on and so forth, right? Steph Curry, 21. Shaq was in school 3 years. Nikolai Jokic was 20 years old and 5 months before he made his NBA debut. And so as I'm starting to look at, there's a theme here. There is a theme here with greatness as it's not should you go, not can you go, but just strictly greatness. The college, as far as development is concerned, it seems to be synonymous with sustained NBA greatness. We look at some of these guys here. Oh, let me put myself back up on the screen. Apologize. Still getting used to this software. All right, so I am looking at every high school kid. So every high school kid who has been drafted since '75, from Daryl Dawkins all the way up to the last NBA draft pick, was Amir Johnson. And although some of these guys have had really good careers, none of them are in the GOAT discussion outside of LeBron James. And I know some of you may take issue with that. Oh, what about Kobe Bryant? Oh, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant's not in the GOAT discussion in any legitimate, with any level-headed, logical fan that's not from Los Angeles and is not a Laker fan. Kobe Bryant's not in a discussion. You can't be in the GOAT discussion and not start for your first 2 years in the NBA. You just can't do that. That's just not, if you're going to be in a GOAT discussion, you got to be plan A, option A, the moment you get to your team. Okay. He was not for the first, maybe, in fact, I would even argue the majority of Kobe's career, he was the second best player on his team. And some may take issue with that, but look, man, his first NBA finals, he averaged not even 16 points a game. Not even 16 points a game. And in no other GOAT, and no other player who has an argument for the GOAT, do they have, I didn't play my first 2 years in the league. My first finals, I averaged 15.6 points a game. And I also played with the 3-time MVP 3 years in a row. No other GOAT player. So people, when they try to force Kobe in the discussion, is exactly what they're doing. They're trying to force him in the discussion. And I guess maybe even to underscore my point, what if Kobe goes to Duke for 2 years? His career probably looks a little bit different, or a lot different. Let me tell you what he ain't doing when he come in the league. Sitting the bench. If he plays 2 years for Coach K or Bobby Knight or, insert legendary coach. If he, Lon Kruger, you say what you want, he's a good coach in college. If he plays 2 years in college, he hits the ground running. He's not picked 13. He's picked number 1. And it's completely different. He's not on the outside of the GOAT discussion. He's on the inside of the GOAT discussion. And so for me, so when I'm looking at all of these guys that have jumped ship and decided to take their talents to the league, which again, I am perfectly fine with. I'm just simply saying that when you are in that lottery discussion, coming back, you ain't going to make less money. Like Ace Bailey wasn't going to make less than 1.6 the next season. He probably pushing 2, 3, and you get a chance for your game to develop. And so when you look at some of these foreign players that are coming over, you're looking at Jokic and even Luka to a lesser degree, right? Luka was, I believe, 19. He was on the younger side, but he had been playing pro since he was 14 years old. right? Jokic had been playing pro for 2 whole years before he came over to the NBA. And so when you're looking at these guys overseas, their youth program, if you will, or their farm system going into the NBA or going into pro is a lot different. They treat their sports over there, whether it be soccer. I don't know about baseball, but I know soccer and basketball. That's in the curriculum from the time they 12. So they go to these academies over there where they focus on fundamentals, where they focus on the game. So when they come over here, they're a much more fundamentally sound, positionless, especially in Europeans, positionless basketball. That's why Jokic looks the way that he looks. That's why Dirk looked the way that he looked. That's why Luka looks the way that he looks. These big, tall guys that know how to pass and know how to move without the basketball, because they're learning the game totally different. So when they get here, they're a lot more mature and they're a lot more of a finished product than some of the raw one and done over here. See, they doing EYBL over there on a whole nother level. You know, when you 16, you playing against 22-year-old dudes. It's different over there. And so when they come here, when you start to look at these younger guys, oftentimes that they're not, the reason why they struggle early is not even necessarily physically can they play, but mentally can they handle it. It's a different game. You know, if Curry goes to the league one and done, we probably don't have Curry, especially after that first year of Davidson. I mean, he just wasn't the product that he wasn't his game wasn't where it needed to be. He needed the extra time at Davidson. And so when you look at why are these guys succeeding the way that why did those guys succeed the way that they had, whether it was Larry Bird, because mentally, it's not physically, mentally they were able to handle the game. You look at Michael Jordan, you know, LeBron is a unicorn. Okay, you cannot look at the exception for the rule. You just can't do it. I mean, I don't argue with aberrations. Whenever I get in a discussion with somebody, well, what about this one time? Just like why are we even talking? I don't do the whole one time. What we do is we take a large sample size, and that's how we create our points of reference. We don't do the whole one time. Well, not everybody. I don't do that. Y'all save that shit for the barbershop. I don't argue aberrations. I don't argue the 1 in a million example that you're using to make your point. Not doing that. And so when you look at these guys, it's not even necessary. You take like an Ace Bailey who has all the athleticism and then some. I've seen him play up close many, many times. Him and my son even scrimmaged together in some camps. So I've seen him play. The question is, mentally, can you handle what that NBA lifestyle is, traveling, and all of the responsibilities that come with, with becoming a pro? Now, because it's not a money thing now. Money, you can go back to Rutgers and make you another, 2 M's right fast. And you get a chance to develop mentally, and you get a chance to work on your game even more. And Ace Bailey may come in and he may dominate and he may be a great player. I don't know. But what I do know is that, I think that it's not even a think thing. I'm certain that I know that the college game has suffered. Look, Cooper Flagg may be a wonderful, wonderful basketball player. He may be, but I only seen him play like 6 games. Back in the day, these guys, whether it be Allen Iverson, I mean, Tim Duncan stayed 4 years. 4 years. Okay, so you get a chance to see. I mean, you wonder why he came in the NBA and won a championship in his first season. The guy, he was ready, and he didn't miss out on no money. Even though, well, maybe he did. He stayed 4 years, and this was before Neil. But he was a max player the entire time he was in the league. He was a max guy. So when you look at these guys coming in, whether it be Allen Iverson, who stayed, he was there for 2 years. You look at Michael Jordan, you look at Steph Curry, you look at these guys who come in that have that sustained greatness, it's completely different, and you look at, if you take, if like, okay, what's my name? Derek Queen, is that his name? Is his name Derek Queen? I think his name is Derek Queen. Let's look at this. Derek Queen. I don't know what he could do. I really don't. So you don't even get a chance to have storylines built. You don't have a chance to get the intrigue that you used to get back in the day. Like I used to, and everybody I know, coming up used to really anticipate Kenny Anderson going up against Bobby Hurley. A regular season game. It was regular season ACC basketball, Big East basketball. It was must-see TV because the storylines got a chance to develop, and there was a lot of intrigue. So when the NCAA tournament came, you are like, I run a bracket. It's hard for me to get anybody even damn play in the bracket. I got to convince people that, hey, I don't know nothing about it either, and because they're always like, well, basketball, yeah, I haven't watched any college basketball. I ain't watched none either. I don't know who these dudes are. I'm just going to go in, I'm going to read for about 13 real minutes, and I'm going to put my bracket in. That's what I'm doing because I'm a junkie for action. So I think that, the storylines just don't have the chances to build. And if you're a younger person, college basketball games used to have more excitement than the NBA games. They did. They really had a lot, the matchups, whether it would be Randolph Childress, and especially a lot of those UNC matchups, Wake Forest against UNC, Duke, UNC, which is still exciting, but it's not Grant Hill, versus Hubert Davis and some of those guys that were back in the day where you get a chance to see that stuff built. I mean, these guys are one and done and gone, so you don't get a chance for the storylines to develop, and you don't get a chance to have your game develop like it used to be. But my argument now is you don't have to leave because the NIL money is there. So why not stay, work on your game? You already a millionaire, and then when you come into the league, now you'll be much more advanced, and you'll probably end up having a more Facebook $1.7 trillion evaluation on your game, or the equivalent of, as opposed to a MySpace type of, okay, we struck early, we struck gold, because you have this. Before, you used to have to leave because you didn't know if you were going to get hurt. You may get the insurance money, and that'd be if you took out insurance on your body parts. They do that now. I believe it's Lloyd's of London is the one who insures these guys. They have these really unique insurance policies. But if you stay and you work on your game, and if your truest path, if your truest desire, not path, but if your truest desire, or if one of your desires is to see if you can be the best basketball player and to maximize your talent to the fullest and your earning potential, and you still can be a millionaire, I think there's less reasons to make the jump to the league now than there were before. But I think that it just seems so automatic nowadays, where guys are going, oh, I'm just going to hit this, college campus real quick because it's what I have to do. And then I'm out, and I'm going to go make, the big bucks. I mean, but in some of these guys' cases, they're taking a pay cut. I know Cooper Flagg is. He ain't going to make $28 million from the Mavericks. He not going to see that. So, and especially somebody like him, why not come back and make $35 million? Make you a quick $63 million in 2 years, and let your game develop and let your mind develop, and then come into the league and see how far you can take this. I mean, in addition to that, selfishly speaking, you get a chance to have storylines develop. It's what saved the NBA, right? Magic and Bird, right? The Hick from French Lick, the City Boy, the City Slicker. I talked about it on, I believe it was my second stream. Getting a chance to, that's still the highest rated college basketball game ever. 40 million viewers. 40 million. So it's not hyperbole when I say that college basketball was much more engaging, much more must-see TV than the NBA game. And then they took those storylines to the NBA, and it took it off tape delay. So the reason why we watching live games now is because of the Magic Bird rivalry, white and black. That shit matters, right? And now if you think about it, we're seeing it all over again with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. We're seeing it all over again. Why? Storylines. Why? Because they stayed in school for 4 years, each of them. Caitlin Clark was at Iowa for 4 years. Angel Reese was in school for 4 years, 2 years at Maryland, 2 years at LSU. And now their games are not the closest must-see TV the WNBA has been. I know I look forward to watching them play. Their games are the biggest draws in the league, and now everybody else is starting to see a little bit of shine too. The Asia Wilsons of the world, Paige. I don't want to pronounce her last name incorrectly. Brianna Stewart, like all of these, is it De'Erica Hamby, Kelsey Plum, Kelsey Mitchell. You know, these girls out here who can really, 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 really hoop. I hope the Sky give Kennedy Carter a call and bring her back in, and hopefully they can come to some common ground because they could use her scoring. Anyway, point is, that the reason why we know who they are, right, is because we got a chance to see them play in college. We got a chance to see Caitlin Clark hit this, and then Angel Reese do when they were about to win or advance to the Final Four, do the same thing. And so now people have opinions on those two, very strong opinions on those two. But the point is, it's engagement, right? Game get a chance to develop. They go to the league. Now the WNBA is at its most popular that it's ever been because of those two players. Exactly the way the NBA blew up, because of two guys, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. The black and white dynamic and having a chance to have those storylines develop in college. Did the NBA have great players before that? Sure, they had some great players. They did. But the game was on tape delay, and it just wasn't exciting because the personalities weren't there. The personalities just weren't there, and they didn't have a chance to. And TV wasn't what it was. You still had greatness, right? You had Kareem all 4 years at UCLA. Another argument for staying, at least more than one season in college. But I think even more now, you have more incentive to stay because you're getting paid. You're getting, on the low end, some of these guys, second round guys, Neil Money, $250,000 for the season. You're getting $500,000 for a season, $100,000 for a season. You're making money. You're making more money than you ever seen before. Give your game a chance to develop and make some money and give yourself the best chances at success in the NBA. So that is just, that was my observation as I was watching the NBA draft last night. I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. I want to know. I do. I want to know who they are, but I would much rather watch a dude that I know kind of his storylines, go out and, score 15, 16, 9 rebounds, then watch a stranger score 18, I mean, that's my opinion. That's how I feel. But I think that it's just, it's telling, right? It's kind of like slow down and walk down and smash them all, right? You can be MySpace. You can go out there and you can go for the ad revenue early and you can cash out and you can lose control of your company. Those guys, the CEO was fired within, I believe, 2 years after the sale. They resold for 94% less value. Yes. Did they make their mark? Yes. Was it a success? The two top guys made a lot of money. But I would much rather have a $1.7 trillion evaluation than, being worth even a fraction of that. And I think that that's the point that I was making, especially now, if the money's on the table. So it's not like I could see if this was, 94, 95, 2000, even where, you got to sneak to make your little money. You signing jerseys, you're risking your eligibility, may get suspended for a game. I mean, that shit was ridiculous. You should be able to make money off of who and what you are as a person. If you go work out and you perform on the field, you should be able to monetize that. I mean, that's America. And thankfully they got that right. Hopefully, the new administration, and I know that Saban, they working to walk back some of the players' agency and their ability to earn, which is, I think, completely ridiculous. But hopefully they can maintain their ability to earn out of high school. Now, I've been seeing recently, and I don't have any notes for this, so forgive me if I fumble through this some. But I I saw recently where LeBron had did an interview with Steve Nash, and they asked him about, ring culture, and obviously he had went on to name. He's like he doesn't know where it came from, why it exists, um, and sort of was speaking. I don't want to say ill of ring culture, but he just didn't understand it, and I thought that I don't want to say it was disingenuous to the argument. I mean, LeBron's got 4 rings. So I mean, maybe he can sit there and say that, but he didn't go to Miami not to win a ring. Um, and I think ring culture has always existed to a degree, but especially earlier, right? Because if you if you if you won back in the day, right, that meant endorsement opportunities because we didn't have the NBA package. So the more you won, and the more flair you play with, and the more of a storyline that your team had, you were going to be on national television. And obviously, when the playoffs come and the more you win, they got to at least put you on. That's why it's so important to make the conference finals, especially back then, because your local playoff game, I don't think was always coming on. But having said that, so it mattered a lot more to your legacy because people got a chance to see you because obviously all that attention has funneled down to those championship games, whether it was the Celtics and back in the 70s, the Lakers in the 80s, and so on and so forth, but particularly early in the 70s and in the 60s when those guys were playing, that meant everything. And the checks were a lot smaller because the TV revenue wasn't there. But as we've advanced forward, and they asked him about it, he started talking about how, you telling me Dan Marino ain't one of the greatest. I don't think that that is necessarily the issue. The issue isn't necessarily your greatness. The issue is when you start talking about ring culture, we're talking about GOAT conversation. That's really what we're talking about. Nobody's saying that Barkley isn't great. He's in the Hall of Fame. Nobody says that Peyton Manning isn't great with his 2 championships because he doesn't have as many as Tom Brady. But 7 is more than 2. And Tom Brady also has some pretty decent numbers. So when you start talking about the GOAT discussion, what you start to look for is differentiators in the in their resumes, right? Differences in the resumes. And so you start to go, okay, this guy has this many MVPs. It's not MVP culture. It's just a metric. You start talking about scoring titles. It's not scoring title culture. It's just another differentiating metric. Rebounds and assists don't necessarily count for as much, but they're there, right? And they do matter. And so when you start talking about ring culture, what if we really rip the facade off of ring culture, it's basically Michael Jordan 6-0, and you have LeBron with 4 and whatever his whatever the losses are, and that is basically where it came in. That is the ring culture discussion, and mostly it's been upheld or propagated by people who want to argue that Jordan is the GOAT, right? They want to argue that Jordan is the best. He's 6-0. He never lost, and that's where you get the ring culture from. That if we're really talking about it, but if we're gonna have ring culture, then let's have it all the way. Let's not limit it to just his 6. Obviously, we can go to Bill Russell. If you want to have someone more comparable, right? Havlicek was 8-0. John Havlicek was 8-0 in the finals with like 13 All-Star appearances, 25,000 points, MVPs. He had it all. So if we're gonna, and that's why it's important to give context, right? Rings aren't a differentiator. They're not the only culture. It's just one of the factors that we use to evaluate greatness. Were you the reason that your team was pushed over the edge, right? Were you the reason why they won the championship? Were you the reason why they lost the championship? Did you show up? Did you not show up? And Michael Jordan, to his credit, when he got to the dance, he was always the biggest reason that they won. Scottie Pippen was I don't even. It's hard for me to even call him a Batman. He was really. I mean, when Michael Jordan went to go play baseball, Scotty finished third in the MVP voting. Third. I think the guy who finished third in the MVP voting, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong this year, was Giannis. So that should give you some perspective on. That's like Michael Jordan getting Giannis to play with. He got Giannis, right? So, Pippen was not gosh, he was a 1B to Michael Jordan's 1. I ain't calling Michael Jordan 1A to disrespect, for Michael Jordan was a 1, but he was a 1B. And anyway, so then when you win the championship, the most coveted prize in sports, and you're the MVP, it matters. It matters a lot. And so for me, when you start talking about ring culture, I think that if we're gonna be candid about it, that shit is nothing but about Michael Jordan and LeBron right now. And I think that and for me, if we're gonna be completely transparent, I think that LeBron's 4 and how he did it are just as good as Jordan's 6. And so that now we got to go to different factors, different variables, right? And I'm not going to get into those variables today. I just wanted to touch on it and just break down like what is ring culture, at least as I think about it. And I think that ring culture is has been rebranded. It's basically Jordan 6-0 guys. That's what ring culture is. That's what it is. It's Jordan people going 6-0, 6-0, 6-0, 6-0, and LeBron is 4-9 or whatever it is, whatever his record is. And so you just go 6-0, but it's disingenuous to the argument because Bill Russell had 11, I think, and Havlicek has 8, and Ori has 7, and so on and so forth, right? But Nash has none, and Cassell has 2, but no one is taking Sam Cassell over Steve Nash. And so we'll get into that and we'll unpack that probably as we get closer to the season, or if there's another big story about it. But I did want to at least touch on ring culture just a little bit, and really for those out there who may not be in that discussion or heard it, just like when you hear that shit ain't nothing but folks talking about 6-0. That's all that is. So anyway, I appreciate all you guys joining me again for the stream. Forgive me if some of you are commenting during my stream, and I didn't get a chance to respond because I'm not that good at looking at the comments yet and responding. So please forgive me. But I'm also not expecting that many comments right now as I'm just starting to build this. So I will get better at it. But right now I'm just getting used to going live and not fucking up. That's what I'm trying. I'm trying to get used to going live, holding my thought, and just getting through a stream and not sounding like not messing up too much. So if you guys get a chance, please like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. I'm building this. This is what I'm doing. I was off for a while, but I'm back. I will try to do another stream tomorrow. I just have to, because what I'm trying to do is when I get rid of this, I have to edit it and then try to post it and all this other stuff that comes along with just very cumbersome administrative, well, it's not even administrative, creative work that goes when I hit finish here. What do I do and how do I get this to you guys after? And I haven't even created any reels or even tried to promote it yet. So I just ask you guys just to be patient with me. And I thank all of you for joining me for my 4th Rob Hunter TV stream. I'll be back. I don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about when I come back, but I'm going to be talking. So thank you guys for joining me. Like, share, tell a friend.